Today's lesson is Module 4, Lesson 3, the relationship of multiplication and addition. In today's notes, we're going to just review a few things that we talked about yesterday and then actually give a name of some identities that we've been working with over the past 2 days. So the first thing that I want to remind you of is remember that multiplication is just repeated addition. The next reminder is that remember that the multiplication symbol means groups of. So for example, 2 times 3 means 2 groups of 3, and I would represent that as 3 plus 3. And this two plus 2 plus 2 is not 2 groups of 3. Even though both of those expressions would result in 6, this does not represent 2 groups of 3. 3 plus 3 represents 2 groups of 3. So make sure that when you are representing or trying to come up with an equivalent expression for 2 times 3 that you're actually making the correct groupings. So we'll just circle that in our notes. So that's what we would call a non-example. Next, remember that a letter next to a number means to multiply. So remember that mathematical term is variable. So for example, m plus m plus m is the same as 3m, which means 3 groups of m. This 3m would be like writing 3 times m. But often that multiplication symbol could be misunderstood as another variable. Sometimes it can be written this way, 3 times m, or it can be written with a parenthesis. But those all mean the same thing. This is the preference. This 3m is the preference for writing it in math class. Finally, we are going to give names of the identities that we've been practicing over the last 2 days. The definition of an identity is an equation is an identity because variables can be replaced by numbers and can be true. So an example of the addition identity is m plus 3y minus 3y equals m. When it starts with an addition, then it's the addition identity. Subtraction identity, z minus 2f plus 2f equals z. So if it starts with subtraction, then it's a subtraction identity. Now I want you to go ahead and take out your student book. And we are in Module 4, so 6.4, Lesson 3, the relationship of multiplication and addition. Today we're going to just be creating equivalent expressions. Remember, an expression is a number sentence that can include variables and operations, but no equal sign. If it has an equal sign, then that's an equation. So let's look at this opening exercise and do this together. It says write 2 different expressions that can be depicted by the tape diagram shown. One expression should include addition and the other should include multiplication. So the first thing I'm going to notice is I have 3 groups. So if I have 3 groups, I know that that can be multiplication, and I can represent that by 3x. Because if you remember, this x means multiplication, but it also means groups of. So 3 groups of, and now I want to see how many is in each group. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 equal groups. So 3 groups of 3. So that would be my multiplication. And then I can use this multiplication to write my addition. So if I make 3 groups of 3, and then I put in my plus sign. Let's do the next one the same way. I see that I have 2 groups, so it'll be 2 groups of, then I'm going to see how many is in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 groups of 8. So then to write my addition, I make my 2 8s, and then I put in my plus sign. I want you to try C on your own. So go ahead and pause the video and try that on your own. Okay, so let's check this. I can see I have 1, 2, 3 groups, so 3 groups of, and then count each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have put 3 groups of 5, and then I represent that by making 3 5s. Whoops, and then put in my addition sign. So hopefully that's what you had for C. Now let's go on to exercise 1. In exercise 1, it says, write the addition sentence that describes the model and the multiplication sentence that describes the model. So when I look at this model, how it's different from these tape diagrams above is these were all laid out horizontally, and I can see that these tape diagrams are now vertically. They almost look like an array. There's just a little space in between. But I can see that I still have how many groups? 1, 2, 3. I still have 3 groups. So 3 groups. Now I need to know how many are in each group. Well, the nice thing is I can tell that they're all equal groups just by visually looking, so I only need to count the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 groups of 5. So then I can do 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 because I have to make, I'm sorry, I got a little carried away. 5 plus 5 plus 5 because I need 3 5s. The next thing I want you to notice is just to kind of bring back something that you've probably learned in earlier grades, is that this would represent the 3 and this would represent the 5. And that kind of reminds us of finding area when we find the area of a flat shape. So it's kind of like if we thought about this as a giant rectangle and 3 high and 5 wide. So again, that area model. Okay, let's go on to exercise number 2. We're going to practice a couple together. You're going to do a couple on your own. So it says, write an equivalent expression that demonstrates the relationship of multiplication and addition. So in A, I can see I have 6 and 6. So if I have 2 of the same number, I know that that's 2 groups of something. So 2 groups of, and I can see that this number is 6. So 2 groups of 6. So these 2 expressions are equivalent. I want you to go on and do B and C on your own. So pause your video, do B and C on your own, and then come back on and check your answers. Okay, for B, you should have counted that there were 6 groups of 3 and noted that as 6 times 3. And for C, you should have counted that there were 5 groups of 4 and you noted that by 5 times 4. We're going to do D together. This one reads as 6 groups of 2. This last number tells us what number we're going to write in our addition expression. And this first number tells us how many of that number. So I'm going to write 6 2s. And then add in my addition operation between those. I want you to go ahead and do E and F on your own and then check your answers. So pause your video now. Okay, for E, you should have seen that 6 was the number that you needed to use, and you needed 4 6s, so you should have written out 4 6s and then added in the addition operation. And then for F, 9 was the number you were making groups of, and there were 3 of those, so you should have written 3 9s and then added in the 2 addition operations. We're going to do G and H together. For G, I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 H's. It's repeated addition, so I know my equivalent expression is going to be multiplication. And instead of this being numbers, it's just letters. So I'm going to write down that letter, and then I'm going to count how many. There were 5, and so I just put that number in front of the letter. So 5H, 5 groups of H. Now for letter H, this expression tells me 6 groups of Y. So this Y is what I have to write 6 times. Y, 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 Y. So I have 6 Y's, and then I just add in my addition operation. Let's go on. For number 3, it says Roberto is not familiar with tape diagrams and believes that he can show the relationship of multiplication and addition on a number line. Help Roberto demonstrate the expression 3 times 2 is equivalent to 2 plus 2 plus 2 on a number line. The first thing I'm going to do is make a couple of number lines. And I'm going to start with my multiplication of 3 groups of 2. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to jump in intervals of 2. So here's a group of 2. Here's a group of 2. And here's a group of 2. This represents 3 groups of 2, or 3 times 2. On this number line, I'm going to show what we call arrow math. And arrow math is one continuous line that adds numbers on each time. So I'm going to go to 2, but I'm going to keep going to 4 because I'm going to add 2 each time. And then finally end at 6. And this is the sum of 2 plus 2 plus 2. So that is a way that you can show these 2 expressions on a number line. For number 4, I want you to go back to your notes. And I want you to write out the answers to these. I want you to tell me if they're true or false, and then I also identify, if it's true, which identity it would be. Would it be an addition identity or subtraction? So pause your video, go to your notes and try number 4 on your own, and then come back and check your answer. Okay, so for number 4, you should have noted that it was x plus 6g minus 6g. So original number, opposite operations, back to the original number, which is true. And this is the addition identity because addition was my first operation. For B, 2f minus 4e plus 4e equals 2f, original number, opposite operations, original number. So again, this is true. And this is the subtraction identity because it started with the subtraction operation. Let's continue on to number 5. Number 5 is very similar to what we've been practicing the whole lesson, only this time they're going to incorporate multiple numbers together. It looks like one expression. It is one expression, but it just uses different numbers, and we are going to practice writing that using mixed operations. So the first thing I want to do is I want to group together those numbers that are similar along with their operations. So in A, you can see that I grouped together the 6s and the 4s. Now when I look at this group of 6s, I can see that this is repeated addition. It's groupings of 6. I have 4 6s, so 4 groups of 6. That is what is represented in that first one that I circled. In the second one that I circled, it's repeated addition. There are 3 groups of 4, so 3 groups of 4. That is what is represented here. The only thing is I have this one operation symbol that was not a part of either one of those expressions. So I can't forget about it. I have to drop it back in. So now my expression reads 4 times 6 plus 3 times 4. Let's go on and look at B. In B, they used variables. So now I'm going to group them together by letters that are similar and include those operations that are between those letters. This time in this first one, I can see that I am using D, and there are 3 of them. So 3 groups of D. Remember, when I'm going to write groups of, I can just smash that letter and number together. And then in my next group here, I can see that I'm using the letter W and that there are 5 of those. So 5 groups of W. And then I have this operation that's not being used, so I just drop it down. Or I'm sorry, I wrote in multiplication, and that should be addition. I apologize for that. I want you to try C on your own, so pause your video and try C on your own. Okay, for C, you should have circled the 2 A's, the 3 B's, and the 4 C's. So you had 2 groups of A, 3 groups of B, 4 groups of C, and then you should have had 2 plus operations left and drop them in. So your expression now reads 2A plus 3B plus 4C. That is the end of lesson 3. And now I'm going to go over today's assignment. On today's exit ticket, you're going to be practicing the same thing that we've practiced together in class. So for numbers 1 through 6, you're writing an equivalent expression to show the relationship of multiplication and addition. So that's just what we just practiced on numbers 4 and 5 in today's, or I'm sorry, not 4 and 5, and numbers 2 and 5 in today's lesson. So this is the same as number 2 and number 5 in today's lesson. So you can go back in the lesson and look at those and get some helpful hints for those. And then on the back, it's going to be the same thing. You can go back and look at lesson number 2 and number 5 for some help. So all you're going to do is write a different expression for what is given to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. And remember, you can always pause and rewind this video as much as you need.